Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday. And on the menu this Saturday, we've got R-Type Dimensions. Specifically, we'll be playing R-Type on R-Type Dimensions, but, well, that's what we're using to go and play it. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with R-Type, it's IREM's classic 1987 arcade shoot 'em up. It's definitely one of those ones that is a classic in the shoot 'em up genre, so if you haven't gone and played it, I would definitely recommend going and at least giving it a shot. So what kind of taste will this one go and have? Let's get cooking and find out. R-Type Dimensions. Let's blast off and strike the evil Bido Empire, shall we? So R-Type Dimensions is a compilation of R-Type and R-Type 2, the arcade versions. For our purposes today, we're just going to go and be sticking to the original R-Type, but it's definitely nice to know that you have both there. Dimensions goes and adds some things to the original R-Type experience. So the original R-Type arcade title came out back in 1987, and of course it's a single player. So that's one thing you go and have, is you've got multiplayer added to the title, as well as some neat graphical flair like 3D and whatnot. It's definitely something that's really enjoyable and goes and adds a really nice look to this iconic title that's essentially been one of the defining games in the shoot 'em up genre for years. It's definitely one that if you haven't gone and played R-Type, I would definitely go and recommend looking into it, and R-Type Dimensions is probably a really decent way to go and experience R-Type as a whole. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the single player for this one. We've Excuse me. We've got two modes we can go and choose from. There's the classic mode, which goes and gives you a set number of lives and goes and resets you back to a checkpoint when you go and die. Or there's the infinite mode, where your score is kind of based off of how many lives you go and use, and you don't get reset to a checkpoint when you go and die. We're going to go ahead and go with that. So here's some of the graphical settings we can go and play around with. It gives us the option of the original 2D or 3D, but we can go and switch between that on the fly, so we'll just go ahead and leave it 3D for now. There's the screen display. You can go and set it to the arcade original, or you can go widescreen. We'll go ahead and go widescreen for today. And then the camera, which goes and affects the 3D. It kind of gives you this interesting 2.5D, like almost isometric look of it. We're just going to go ahead and go for normal for that one, because I actually find the other mode kind of disorienting. Then we get to go and select our stage. Of course, we're going to just go ahead and start with stage 1, the encounter, going and having to defend against the Bidos. So, let's get cooking! Alright, so here we are going and piloting the R9 fighter. It goes in as pretty basic as far as what it has for shots. We have a main gun, and then we have a charged wave cannon that is pretty powerful at going and taking out waves of enemies, or in a situation where we have to go and deal a large amount of damage with like as few shots as possible. It's definitely a good way to go. So once we go and start collecting power-ups, we go and bring this guy onto the screen. That's our little bit here called the Force, or rather just Force. It's definitely one of the iconic parts of the R-Type series, the Force. It's basically a bit that we can go and attach to either the front or the back of our ship to go and provide additional firepower, as well as shielding from basic enemy shots. It also can go and like deal damage to enemies, and it's possible to both go and leave it attached to the ship for additional defense and firepower, especially as we start to go and collect additional power-ups, which there are several, like the reflective laser I picked up. Or we can go and fire it ahead to go and provide additional firepower, as well as kind of act as, what's a good term for it? It goes and basically deals damage itself, so you can go and like ram it into enemies or go and get it stuck and use it to destroy stuff that way. So we went and picked up the power-up that went and gave us the reflective lasers earlier, and now we have this power-up which goes and gives us the second type of power-up that we go and have in R-Type, the neon wave laser, which is probably my favorite because it's the most direct of the three. The third one is a set of fireballs that go and fire both up and down from your ship and go and travel along the ground. Alright, so here we are at the first boss of R-Type. It's definitely inspired via aliens. Here we can go and see some of the benefit that can go and be provided from going and having our force detached from our ship. The tail would go and normally block our shots, but where the force is at, if I were shooting, I would go and be hitting the boss's weak point far more frequently than we could from back here. But I wanted to also take the time to go and show the differences between the 3D and the 2D and how easy it is to go and switch between it. It's definitely a neat feature that in games that go and give you new graphical options, I like to be able to go and easily just flip between them like this. And we can go and like shoot, take this boss out. Pretty easy. Like, the force can definitely be used to go and simplify a lot of stages, a lot of bosses like that. And it's a really neat feature that has always been present in the R-Type franchise. In some cases, I feel like they actually did it significantly better with with future titles. R-Type 3 goes and springs to mind, or even like the various R-Types that came out on the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2 era. Delta and Final. Those are definitely great titles as well. But the R-Type series hasn't always been just shoot-em-ups as well. There's also the interesting spin-off R-Type Tactics series, which was basically a turn-based strategy that kind of when played off of the R-Type universe, that whole humans versus Bido conflict. Alright, so this power will go and allow us to go and show off the third type of power-up that we go and can get for the Force. And this one is powerful, but it's very situational. You have to go and be in the right spots to go and really be able to make efficient use of a weapon that goes and crawls along the walls. I think I am going to actually go and switch the reflective laser here just because, well, in so many more ways it makes more sense than what we were just using there. So we've got this fun, indestructible worm that's going and taunting us here in this stage. So, oh, that was just bad on my part. Truth be told, the stages are actually relatively short in the original R-Type. We're actually already to the stage 2 boss, this weird heart thingy. A couple different ways we can go and fight this. We could go and try and, I was just like thinking I was in a safe spot there. We can try and get our force stuck right here above the weak point so we can go and deal damage that way. Or we can go and try and just sandwich ourselves nice and tight there. And, well, we're still using the force to go and deal damage to it. Every single time the eye goes and opens, we're not even getting the animation for that. Let's see. Nope, that's not a safe spot. Well, sloppy to go and say the least, but alright, that's stage 2. And we'll go ahead and wrap things up as we go and start stage 3. Stage 3 goes and introduces another really iconic, classic bit of shoot 'em up history that R-Type is definitely known for, and that's the battleship stage. So in this stage, we're going and fighting basically a giant battleship throughout the entire course of the stage itself. The battleship is omnipresent there, and as we go and progress through, we can go and destroy various parts of it until we finally get to finally get access to the core, and we can go and ultimately go and defeat this battleship. It's definitely a fun kind of stage to go and experience, and one that I feel a lot of other shoot-em-ups that came afterwards also paid homage to this kind of stage. Alright, that'll about wrap it up for me in today's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, if you go and have suggestions for other shoot 'em ups that you'd like to see me go and feature on the channel, by all means, please go and leave those in the comments below, or any other titles that you'd like to go and see me play. I want to thank you so much for going and coming out and joining me today, And I hope to go and see you again next week.